What is going on, guys? Welcome to another episode here at the Masculine Health Solutions podcast, where I am joined by Jeff Wickersham. Jeff, how are you today, sir?
CJ, I'm fantastic. Thanks for having me.
So let's jump right into it and tell us about your story and tell us about exactly where this took off for you.
It started about 7.5 years ago, and I had that life event. Unfortunately, punched me in the gut, cut me at the knees. I lost my mom to breast cancer. So when you watch the woman that brought you into this world leave this world, literally take her last breath, that fundamentally changes you at your core, right? All of a sudden, the fragility of life is right there in front of you. So, obviously, such a hardest moment I've ever gone through, right? Difficult
Mhm.
moment, days, weeks, months ahead. I question everything, and one of the big questions I had was, is what I'm doing right now from a work perspective fulfilling me? And it wasn't. So
Mhm.
I ended up leaving corporate America, opened up a gym locally. I was always into fitness. My late mother was an aerobics teacher in the 80s and 90s. She was always into fitness. So that was a passion. And then what organically grew out of that was peak performance and mindset coaching, because we don't have a shortage of gyms in America, around the world, yet geez, 72% of people are overweight or obese. So it's not
Yeah.
necessarily the gym, it's what's in between our ears. And I knew I needed to up level my skills personally.
Mhm.
And through that discovery, that rabbit hole of personal development, then I came back with some tools, some strategies, some tips to help others do the same. So it's been an interesting ride, to say the least.
That's awesome, man. But you're 100% right because dude, man, as a trainer, I could tell you the exact same thing. It's like, dude, we have all the equipment, we have all the resources, we got all the gyms. However, why are we all obese? Why are we all overweight? Why is diabetes on the rise? Why is testosterone levels so low? So when you say that, that truly resonates with me. And I find that anybody that's kind of involved in the fitness realm usually starts going in that direction just because of the same discovery. You're like, dude, how come people just don't have the same mindset as me when you find success in the gym physically, right?
Right. So true. And I would say putting yourself through that physical stress, it unlocks the mental capacity that you have too. And science now shows, hey, exercising is a little bit of Ritalin, a little bit of Prozac, right? It helps you focus and it helps your mood, and it does it for 12 hours. So it should be a fundamental thing we should do as human beings every single day. And I would argue morning's a great time for it. So you get that 12-hour mood boost, focus boost. But
Yeah,
yeah, hitting the gym, putting yourself through natural stressors, natural pain, that's a good thing. We avoid it at all costs, but you got to put in the work, right?
100%. And the thing is, it's kind of without that stress, because that's the other thing that I've come to realize too. The older I get, it's when I read more about humans and what we are fundamentally, it's like, yo, we're adaptation machines, man. Like that's what we do. It's like you put us through stress. Somehow the human will just wills us through and we pull through and somehow we make it to the other side. And it's that process that really, I think, defines us because at the end of the day, you have to go through it to become whatever it is that you want to become. And if you want to get to that next level, it's almost like, yo, you got to show up. You got to go through it. And if you don't, it almost seems like you're just going to stay stuck and you just kind of stay there for the rest of your life. But what kind of led you into the morning fire and what kind of got you started in that realm? And tell us a little bit more about what the morning fire is too.
Yeah. So I still remember in my gym days, I was waking up one day and I still had kind of my habits that I had in my late teens, 20s, and 30s. And I was coaching a class Saturday morning at like 8 o'clock. And I had hung out with my buddies the night before till 2 in the morning. And I smelled like alcohol. Right. And I still remember my wife saying, how are you going to go teach a class when you smell like alcohol? And that was like a trigger to say, hold on, I need to install better habits, better rituals, prepare for success at night, stack wins in the morning. And that's where I became a sponge and just
Mhm.
took bits and pieces from books, podcasts, coaches, you name it. And I said, what better way to wake up in the morning than with fire, right? A morning
Yeah.
fire, come with energy. I mean, energy is a number one virtue correlated to success. And you can't do anything without energy, excitement, and enthusiasm. So I said, okay, morning fire makes sense to me. Now let's have a mantra. And the mantra is rise, fight, love, repeat, right? You're rising like a phoenix, reborn in the morning, new
Hmm.
possibilities, new opportunities. It's a fresh start. That's why I chase sunrises in the morning, right? Because
Yeah.
you can create whatever you want every single day. It's a new day. It's a fresh start. So that rise is important. Fight. You're fighting for your physical fitness, mental fitness, nutritional fitness, and that fight, that dog mentality. So
Hmm.
many people don't bring that to their lives. We were just talking about putting yourself through the natural stress, the pain
Yeah.
of working out. So many people are just flatlined. It's easy to just stay flatlined. You're never going to be great. You're never going to be terrible. You'll just be good. You got to fight for your physical, mental, nutritional fitness. Then love yourself, most importantly, right? The love portion.
Yeah.
Give yourself self-love. And that's such a lost art, is giving yourself grace and being proud of who you are and taking time to develop yourself. And then you can love all those around you
Mm.
that much better. And then the secret sauce, just the repetition, the consistency, day in and day out of doing the same thing. And those habits dictate your success out in the future. And so many times we discount, hey, what I'm doing today, how am I starting my day? Most people are grabbing their phone. They immediately, when they wake up, they're distracted. They're other people's priorities are taking precedent or taking priority over theirs.
Yeah.
And they're playing a game of defense, right? I coach my sons in basketball, and I say most people are playing defense where they're on their heels, their knees are bent, hips are bent, and their quads are burning all day long. Change
Yeah.
that up, be on the offensive, be on your toes. And it's a powerful way to start your day.
Dude, man, I love that because you're 100% right. Why not start the day off with a bang, right? And I think for a lot of us, and that's kind of the creepy thing about these freaking cell phones, man. Like, I don't want to say goddamn cell phones, but the truth of the matter is that so many of us, it's almost like a reflex, man. Like, because I still got my job, right? And I'm like, oh, I wonder what happened yesterday, blah, blah, blah. I got to check that, and then,
Mhm.
oh, well, I got to check to see what the clients are up to, too. So I'll check my app and make sure that's all good to go. And then I'll go and I'm like, next thing you know, I've spent half an hour doing that, right? And then all of a sudden, you just like, you fall into the day, you stumble into the day, and then you start going, like, oh, I got to make food for the kids because it's summertime, they're here, this, that, and the other. But you're 100% right. It's almost like I got to make a conscious effort to wake up and develop that habit, which is why what you're talking about makes perfect sense, man. Like, it's all about developing these routines and developing the discipline to adhere to that new routine and really see the benefits from it. And one question I got for you from that is, what has been your favorite success story from a client that you've seen kind of go from zero to hero from just applying the principles that he learned from you?
So this was a guy I've known since I was 5 years old. So we grew up,
Wow.
went to elementary school together. When I opened up my gym, he started coming to the gym. High school, he was a linebacker, fullback. I mean, built
Big
like,
dude. Yeah.
like he was a stud, and but terribly shy, right? And I remember him telling me a story that his neighbor, it snowed one day and his neighbor was struggling shoveling the driveway, and he couldn't get out to go and help him because he was so shy, right? Like painfully shy. And he went through my Morning Fire Academy, a 10-week program. And all of a sudden, by taking control of what he did at night, stacking these small wins, not letting our mind dictate what we're thinking about in the morning. We're getting water, we're exercising, we're meditating, we're gratitude journaling, all these things that light you up.
Mhm.
He came out of his shell, and he wrote me this note just saying that he was the man that he knew he could be, and he was the dad that he knew his kids deserved. And
Wow.
he owed a lot of gratitude for me. And since I knew him since I was 5 years old, I mean, I get choked up even talking about it a little bit right now. It was such a tremendous gift. I was able to help guide him on, and then him step into the truest version of himself.
Wow. I'm not gonna lie, it kind of gave me chills. Just hearing that, because, dude, and that's the part about physical fitness or just coaching people in that sense. Like, but the mindset always ties into it. I feel like there's no escape from it, right? Like, and what you're saying makes perfect sense because it's like when you work with a client and all of a sudden you see that they develop themselves physically, but since you always tie in that mental component, it's almost like it's undeniable right? And that confidence just kind of grows within them. They change and you see this person blossom. Even though the guy could be 40, 50, whatever. It's all of a sudden you're like, yo, man, you're a different guy. He's got more pep in his step, he's got
Yep.
more swagger. And all of a sudden you're like, hey, you know what? Like I contributed to that in a positive way. And for you, it's almost like you've almost mastered a technique to just, bring the best out of people. It's almost like you bring them to their full potential, man. Like that's huge.
It's such a amazing gift that I've been able to discover and then be able to bring to other people. And people are like, morning routine, that's it. And I'm like, yes, that is it. It is how you start your day. And it's like when you make a first impression with somebody, like you're making the first impression on your day, how you start it. And if you want to succeed, you've got to limit those distractions. I have a rule: no distractions. You are not checking your cell phone. I don't care if you've got 55 text messages, and I've had them sometimes in the morning when I turn off my alarm. I'm not checking it because I want to practice self-love. I want to practice stacking wins, feeling amazing
Mhm.
before I take on anything else. Because if you get that amazing feeling, you feel that progress, and you get a crappy text message, all of a
Yeah.
sudden you're equipped to be able to handle it. Where
Mhm.
if you, the opposite, and I had a guy I was speaking to, and he said, oh my gosh, you're so right. This past weekend on Sunday, I checked my phone right when I wake up and I got a text from the boss. And it was a bad text, and my whole day was derailed on a Sunday. And I said, that's the reason why there's no distractions when you wake up, and stacking your wins is so critical to start off your day.
100%, man. Because I mean, like, I've been learning a little bit more about quantum physics, right? And they've been talking about different things like quantum jumping, this, that, and the other, right? And one of the things that they talked about was the trajectory of your life could change. It's not necessarily a quantum leap, but it's just maybe changing a couple of degrees of like the
Mhm.
direction that you were heading. However, that like 5-degree change all of a sudden changed everything that happens down the road in about a year or two, positively or negatively, right? And I almost feel like what you mentioned there is like, bro, you just changed your day from being a full on crappy day by just if you get ahead of that, if you get ahead of the BS that's going to come your way, because it is, and that's
It
just
is.
life,
Yep.
and you fortify yourself for it, it's almost like, hey, I'm going to keep going the trajectory that I wanted, that I had planned out, and I'm not going to let these things derail me. And I think, like, I mean, you got me thinking, man, because it makes perfect sense. It's almost like a lot of us just fall into that, and all of a sudden we get that negative text, we get that negative message, and all of a sudden we're just like, oh man, it's going to be a crappy day. Just down and out.
That's the way our caveman brain works, right? We're wired to be fearful of anything that's a threat or perceived as a threat, as a saber-toothed tiger, right, ready to kill us outside the cave. That text message, that's the way the brain interprets it. So it amplifies up anything negative 8 to 9 to 10 times more than a positive emotion. So that's why all of a sudden you get that text, you get that email, you fixate on it all day long. You can't get past it, right? So that's why, yes, it's so critical to equip yourself, prepare yourself to go to battle. And life's a battle. You're in a fight, you're in a war, and to be ready to attack.
100%, man. And it just it's funny you mentioned the caveman brain too, but it seems like we are still so fixated on the things that don't even exist, man. And that's kind of where like I was learning about anxiety too, right? Anxiety, depression, all these things when it comes to mental health. And you mentioned how, you are conquering the mental side of things. Have you had to deal with anybody that has been dealing with like mental health issues or and seen positive changes from just changing the way they started their day?
I had a another client who got off his anxiety medication, and it was
Wow.
through, and he said my worst times in the day were when I woke up, because he didn't spring into action. And then what happened? Well, then his mind started just racing of what was possibly going wrong, what could happen. And
Mhm.
instead, when he went through the program, he prepared for success at night. He got a great night's sleep, knew exactly what he was going to do when the alarm went off, stacked all these wins, and it eliminated that mind kind of, you know, racing and running through those thoughts. He leaped into action, and it was amazing to watch him go through that and actually get off his medication. And he's stayed off it, and he's still. I talked to him last week. He's still crushing it in the mornings.
Dude, It's crazy to me because I mean, I was talking to Ian Hill, a guy who successful businessman, been ripping it up in business, right?
Mhm.
And he told me, dude, one day he woke up and he's just like, I wanted to kill myself, man. And it's just brutal to see that he's not in that boat alone. Like tons and tons and tons and tons of guys are, like unfortunately taking their lives, right? And suicide is just one of those things that's so prevalent in our society. And it seems like the whole mental health thing is something that we're not really addressing. And I think as guys, we kind of run away from it and we're not taking care of it, right? And I think with the morning fire approach, hey man, we might be able to curtail that. We might be able to like get rid of that or at least bring that statistic down, maybe I don't know, bring it down 50%. And it's
What
one of those things, right? Like I honestly think that it could have that big of an effect.
Yeah, can't we make a dent in the universe? I mean, we gotta be bold, we gotta be crazy, we gotta be insane enough to do that. I would also say, men in general, we're lone wolves, right? And
Yeah.
we've been taught, nah, I'm good, rub some dirt on it. I don't need any help. I'm good. And then we self-destruct, or we get to such a dark place that we can't ever dig ourselves out. And I've been in some dark places in my life. Luckily, I asked for help, and I
Mhm.
connected with those people that could help me through those times, and I was able to bounce back and grow through those. But
Yeah.
listen, if you need help, there is it's one of the, we always see it as weakness. It is one of the most powerful things you can do, to raise your hand and say, I need help. It doesn't mean you're less of a man. We all need help. If you
Yeah.
look at any high performer, any guy crushing it, they've all had help getting there. It's this
Yeah.
idea that they're just made of some superhuman blood or DNA, right? That they didn't have help. So, I always say that so many times men are in the cave, and I got to light the smoke bomb, throw it in and smoke them out to say, hey, it's amazing when you're around other guys that are crushing it and have that energy and bring it and can lift you up, because we all have down days. But if you're
Yeah.
connected, proximity is power. If you're connected to other men that are attacking and want to do good in the world, that's a powerful place to reside and be connected to.
Which is one of the things that you had mentioned, right? Because you talked about the importance of surrounding yourselves with like-minded warrior mentality people. What does that truly mean for you, and what does that really entail, man? Like, can you talk about that a little bit more in depth? Like the systematic approach, I guess.
So it starts with leading yourself first, right? And developing that tenacious, consistent, relentless work ethic, and understanding that in life, and we've all been led to believe by media and movies and everything, that there's this destination we're going to get to, where we're sitting on that beach and our toes are in the white sand and the crystal blue waters out there, and we're drinking
Yeah.
a daiquiri. It might be fun for a day or two or a week or a month. You're going to get bored of that. There's no exoneration of the work that we need to put in on a daily basis. We are meant to strive to be better. So that's the number one thing. Number two is then, by leading through example, all of a sudden you're going to start attracting people that want to do that same thing. And when you connect with them and you're around them, one of the greatest things that has happened in the last, I'd say, 4 or 5 months, is my family has become that kind of warrior mentality as well. I've got two sons, one's soon to be 14, one's 12,
Nice.
basketball, football. They're now getting up at 7, going for a run. We got a garage gym. They're working out. Like we have an energy now in our family that we're all just ready to crush it every single day. And
Yeah.
imagine how powerful that is. I mean, especially as most of us played sports growing up, right? And we had that team, we had that connection, we had that coach, and all of a sudden then we're released into the wild and we have all these responsibilities. We have no coach, we have no team, and we think we're going to be successful. No, you got to figure out where
Wow.
that brotherhood comes from, where that tribe is, where that energy can come from. If you need help, get a coach, right? Somebody can guide you in the process, and that's going to propel you to develop that warrior mentality of just grinding, gritting, getting after it, and it's a powerful way to live. It's not easy by any stretch of the imagination, but you're going to pay a price in life.
Mm-hmm.
any way you cut it. You can pay the price now by getting up, working out, working on your mindset, hitting those mental reps in the gym, so you have a better life in the end, or you can put it off, and then you're going to deal with health issues later in life, and that's the price you're going to pay. So,
Dude, I mean, it all makes perfect sense. But the one thing that really stuck out to me where I'm like, yo, this I had never thought about it or looked at it from this perspective. And I always tell people, always get a coach. I'm like, look at LeBron James. He's got like a full coaching staff that works with him and he invests tons of money in himself. And people piss me off because they're like, I don't need it. I'll go to the gym and figure. I'm like, no, you're not, man. You've been doing it for 10 years, man. Like, listen, man, get some help. Right. And we see it all the time, but it's almost where that ego comes in, male or female. Cause like I know a couple of girls that are very close to me, and it's like they've been losing weight for the past 10 years,
right.
still to no avail. And they're still trying to, and it's like you said too, man, like they'll spend money and they'll look for ways to kind of find these shortcuts and it doesn't work. It never works. The best way to go about is an individualized approach that's made specifically for you, and you have a coach and a team, a small community that you can kind of rely on, right? And the thing that really stuck out to me about that, because like I played basketball growing up, and I'm like, I had never thought about it like that. Like, yo, you're right. You had a team and you had a coach and you had assistant coaches and stuff, but there was a small group of people that was working towards that same goal, which was winning the basketball game,
Right.
developing your skills, going after it. And to me, that just stuck out massively because all of a sudden we grow up, and you're right, we go into the world and we're just like, I'll figure it out from here.
which is crazy because we've had coaches or guides all throughout our life. So, no wonder why so many people are depressed, anxious, stressed. No wonder why so many people are turning to alcohol, porn, drugs,
Yeah.
things, betting, out gambling, numbing themselves because they don't know how to go. They don't know which way to turn, and they're just looking for a way out.
100%, man. And I kind of find for myself too, that's where mentorship kind of comes into play. It's like, dude, I don't know everything about fitness. Fitness is always changing. It's like saying, oh, yeah, like I know everything about science. I'm like, I highly doubt that. Science is changing every day. But it's almost like getting rid of that ego and getting to that accountability side of things, man. How do you go about keeping your guys accountable? Do you have them like just log? Do they show you? Like, how do you track their progress?
They're checking in with me every day. So
Gotcha.
I typically send energy their way through a text, video message, something of that nature, and they're sending it back because that's the other piece is so many times. And I would say this is a huge failure in the general wellness industry is this lack of accountability, and people want to scale,
Hmm.
but yet the clients are paying the price, right? And I think the statistic is what, out of 100 people that sign up for a course, 6 to 7% actually complete it,
Yeah.
and there's no accountability, there's no consistency there, and that's one of the things in any of my programs I pride myself on is hey, having that touch, yeah, let's go. I'm going to give you my energy, you give me yours, and we're gonna kick ass together.
100%. And I mean, it's crazy. Well, it's not crazy. I mean, it makes perfect sense that you mentioned that, and it pisses me off because I'll see certain coaches that say that like it's all about scale and getting up and making X amount of dollars. I'm like, bro, but you're I mean, what you're offering, what you're putting into the market sucks. Like it's trash, and you're putting all the responsibility on the client. I'm like, dude, man, your job is to coach this guy into getting him or her where she wants to go. I'm
Right.
like, you can't just put it on the client and be like, well, I showed you what to do. I'm like, yeah, but YouTube, all these other things, we have tons of resources. We have no accountability, man. And that makes perfect sense because it's like, yeah, dude, I'm the same way where it's like, bro, what'd you do today, man? It's like, oh, I forgot to log. I'm like, well, log your shit, man. Like, put it
Right.
in there. I gotta see it. Right. Like I got one client who's like, yo, man, I'm sorry. I ate peanut butter. I'm like, well, you're not doing it again tomorrow. And it's a constant give and take. And you're so
Mm.
right about that. And it pisses me off because I see it all the time where people are more worried about scaling and becoming bigger, bigger, bigger without offering the quality and the accountability that people need to succeed. Right. So
It's why, yeah, it's why so many people have become jaded with the industry because they've tried 5, 6, 10, 15 times different programs that this will be the success, and there's no accountability, and they don't have those habits, those disciplines in place, and they don't complete it. and it's another failed attempt at what they're trying. And people, we need to do better as an industry
100%.
to hold our clients accountable and make sure they get results. And at the end of the day, show
Yeah,
that you truly care about them as a human being. And I feel like
100%.
that scale narrative doesn't take that into account.
No, well, it can't. Like, for me, it's like you can scale. I'm not going to say that you can't. You can scale 100%. There's companies
Mhm.
that do it very well. Like, I
Yep.
look at a company like Peloton and I admire that company because I'm like, hey, you know what? They did it pretty successfully. They know what they're doing. Beachbody's another one where I kind of like, but my wife liked it. She did it and she was successful with it. And I was like, you know what? Okay, respect. Some
There you go.
companies can do it right, but they are far and few between. Most companies or most like online trainers are just kind of like, yeah, join, 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 join. And then all of a sudden it's like, they'll come to me and they'll be like, hey man, I tried XYZ program and it was all about me just doing whatever, and I had no really like check-ins with my coach. I would barely talk, like, then I just gave up halfway through, which
Right.
kind of brings me to the next point I wanted to talk to you about was how to plan for success. How do you plan for success, and what are your key tips to planning for success?
So really two areas. One is I love to plan on a weekly basis, right? Sundays is a great day to say, okay, what am I going to attack for the week? And I love the power of three. So professionally, what am I going to attack? Right? What's a
Mhm.
big target? What's a big mission? And I always love using missions rather than goals, because goals are kind of,
Ooh, I like that.
goals are kind of wishy in the air. Mission's a must. Like
Yeah.
you're on a mission, you're attacking, and that goes with that kind of that fight mentality. So professionally, what is one huge mission you want to accomplish? Personally, what are you going to do? What's your mission for the week? And then what's one thing that's uncomfortable? Set that and then go and attack it, because growth lies in that uncomfortable zone. So when you're
Mhm.
intentional on a Sunday saying, all right, these are the three things I'm going to work on myself personally, professionally, and I'm going to get uncomfortable. That's a great way to plan for success throughout your week, rather than Monday coming and, well, what am I going to do? Well, you've already kind of
Yeah.
lost the battle because you're not being strategic in what you're going to attack. So that's number one. And then number two, back to the morning routine, you
Mhm.
need to plan at night. You need to have everything ready so you can execute and get it done. And I stack about 8, 9 wins in a 30-minute time frame. And I've told people it's down to the level of having your glass of water ready for you when you come downstairs. And I've had people
Interesting.
say, that's ridiculous. Why? I said, okay, so let's just run through this scenario. You come downstairs, you open up the cabinet, there's not a clean glass of water. You go look down at the dishwasher and your spouse hadn't fully pushed in the dishwasher. So there's not a clean cup in the house. That's the
Oh.
first opportunity for your mind to say, you know what, Jeff, this morning routine is bullshit. It's too hard. We're going back to bed. Let's check our phone. Let's do whatever. So you need to plan everything out so you can stack those wins, get those progress, and have no resistance in the
Yeah.
process. Because when there's resistance, when it's a little bit more difficult, that's where that mind kicks in and says, it's too difficult. Let's not do this today. So weekly, setting those missions and then preparing for your success in the morning the night before.
Dude, you're 100% right, because it's kind of like I've been there before. I'm not gonna lie, man. I'll have everything set up, and let's say there's one thing that stumbles you, or I'm like, oh, my wife made cake yesterday. Forget this noise. I'll do my low carb day tomorrow, and I'll start the day off, and I'll have two pieces of cake, and then I'll just be like, well, I'll do cardio, and then you start justifying things. And it's kind of like it's interesting that you mentioned that because that's the way the human brain works, man. Like, and I'm the guy that's in shape telling people what to do, and yet I have trouble with that. It's something that obviously I got safeguards that I kind of make sure I follow. I'm like, okay, well, this equates to about 500 calories on the Stairmaster. So I'm like, I gotta do 40 minutes of cardio or something. But that being said, it's something that we could avoid if we plan for it strategically. And what you said there makes sense, man, because it's like, dude, if you just plan for it, you have everything down, every minor detail ready to go, the chances of you falling off or being derailed are slim to none.
So true. And related to the cake story, I heard this the other day and I just loved it. It was every discipline impacts and affects every other discipline. So when
Interesting.
you eat that cake, then what happens? More than likely, you miss out on another discipline, right? You spiral down, right? Because
Oh
your
yeah.
mind has allowed you to take, oh, it's just, you got that voice on your shoulder. Hey, just have a little piece of cake. You have a little piece of cake, and then maybe you don't meditate. Maybe you don't hit the gym, right? And that line, every discipline, habit impacts and affects every other discipline or habit. It's great to think of, because when you're facing that cake, all of a sudden you can picture it as a much bigger issue if you do it, rather than that voice in our heads that says, hey, it's just a piece of cake. You worked out hard yesterday. You deserve it, right? Nope, it's going to impact everything else in my day. So I'm
Hmm.
not giving in.
Dude, because you're right. It is that domino effect, and I think we all see it differently. And for me, it's kind of like, okay, if I'm going to take a little bit from here, that means I'm going to force myself to work harder to justify myself eating this piece of cake or whatever it is that I want to do. Or if it's like sacrificing my time to watch 10 minutes more of Stranger Things, I'm like, okay, well, I can't write as much or I can't edit today. I'm like, I got to do, I got to find time from somewhere else.
Right.
But you're right. It's like you sacrifice something for something else. And it's
Mhm.
always that give and take, man. It's that give and take where it's like, I mean, I've been looking at the Hermetic principles, right? And they talk about like the law of balance as well. Like it's something that ties into it, right? There always has to be like a cosmic balance.
Mhm.
Regardless of whatever it is that you're doing, there's always a way that it needs to balance out. And if I only got 24 hours in the day and I sacrifice one of them to do something that I don't want to do and I still want to reach that mission, it's like, okay, well, where do I pull the time out from that? Because now I got to
Right.
sacrifice something else,
Right.
which is to me, it's like, how do you go about doing that?
Yeah.
But let's take a look. There's something else. Oh, yeah, right here. The top 5 tips for creating accountability in our lives. This is the one that I wanted to ask you about. Because now that we're talking about, slipping up a little bit and being derailed, what are the top 5 tips for creating accountability?
Number one is you got to commit, right? You got to make a commitment. And everybody always says, well, let me be inspired, or let me wait till Monday when I've got that motivation. Actually, the commitment is the first piece, right? You've got to commit first. And then all of a sudden, when it's on the calendar, let's say you got a Spartan race in a couple months, that gets your butt off the couch and you're eating better and you're training because you know you've got to show up for that. So that's one from an accountability perspective. Number two is get somebody else that's in your circle or a coach that's going to hold you to the fire, right? And we talked
Yeah.
about this a little bit earlier. That is so critical, and it's so missed. And people say they're good, they're not. Grab a coach. It's always tough to read the label when you're inside the bottle. They can give new perspectives, new
Yeah.
ideas. They can be a cheerleader for you, right? Like that is, I mean, what we just talked about growing up and playing basketball. I was a huge basketball guy growing up. I mean, part of being a great coach is to pull the best out of your players, right? And that's
Yeah.
what coach does in life as well. They pull the best out of you and they make you see that and have that belief that you can do more, have more, and be more. So that would be another one. Number three is making it public, right?
Hmm.
You want accountability, make it
Hmm.
public. 2022, I'm not having a sip of alcohol. That's the longest stretch I'll have ever gone since I was 18 years old. I posted it out on all social channels. Why? Because I inherently know that there's a switch in the back of our minds that you don't want to look like a liar in front of people, right? So by putting it out there, you're committing, you're deciding, and people are truly gonna, that's just a mind trick that you can use to your advantage,
Yeah.
to really be accountable and hold yourself in that consistency arena. So those are really my top three. There's some other things, but those three, I love the power of three. I would definitely keep those at the forefront to make you be more accountable.
Hey, man, it's a great place to start. And for me, the social side of thing too. Like I'll see people and I'll take a look at them and be like, well, you started your fitness journey and yet you don't follow through. To me, it's almost like it depends on the person too, right? Because some people will always put their starts, and then you start looking at them and you're like, hey, man, when are you gonna continue? Because you'll see them, and it's like, okay, well, in my mind, the way I'm wired, I'm like, if I'm gonna put it out there, it's like now I'm committed to it, and that goes back to the whole mission side of thing that you were talking about as well, where it's like, well, now it's my mission, dude. Like, I can't backtrack because you're right. It's like, who wants to look like a liar in front of everybody? I know I don't.
No, nobody does, right? That's that little switch that flips behind your head. I would also say, a couple other things is tracking it. You want to
Yeah,
be accountable, you got to track it, you got to see it. That's why I use Insight Timer as my meditation app. It
yeah,
shows me after every time I meditate what number I'm at. I mean, today was 1,669 straight days of meditation. There's nothing like seeing that pop up after each time, because now, I mean, I've even told my wife, listen, even if I'm in the hospital, you better hit that meditation app because I'm keeping that streak alive. Right. So, tracking it is incredibly powerful. And then, your loved ones, being that leader for them. Right. I'll go back to that point is we need more people, more men to stand up and be leaders for the good things
yeah,
in life. And especially I'm a dad, it's great to watch my boys really listen, even though sometimes you don't think they're listening, and
yeah.
adopt and implement those things. And now seeing it kind of come to fruition, it's amazingly powerful.
Well, I mean, and that's what I tell my wife all the time too. It's like, first of all, you being in their lives is number one. Like, I don't care what anybody says. I don't care about these new age blended this. I'm not into all that. I'm like, listen, man, the reason why it's so important for fathers to be in the family is that we are the role models for our boys and we are the protectors for our daughters, if you have daughters, right?
Right.
The thing is, it's like, man, I was looking at suicide rate, crime, all these things that are negatively attributed to toxic masculinity or to men usually are attributed to fatherless households, right?
Mm,
And I'm
yep.
like, oh, what are the chances of that?
Right.
90% of the guys in prison, don't have fathers, right? Or they don't have a positive role model, or, they just never had that male figure in their lives who did something positive with his life that they could emulate. And it's crazy to me that, a lot of people don't take into consideration the fact that, hey, if you're a dad, man, you're there and you're doing your job, your responsibility as a father, man, like, hey, props to you, man. Maybe you're not perfect, but you're there, right? But on top of that, now you leading your kids as a positive role model, teaching them the morning fire routine. You're getting them fired up for not just like school and all that stuff, because all that stuff falls away, but you're getting them ready for life, man. And I think that's massive. Like, and that's kind of the things with this podcast where I'm just trying to get as many men out there, like, hey guys, like, let's do better, right? And you're bringing that to the table. And for me, it's kind of like, yo, you want to make a positive impact on this planet? That's a great way to start off, man.
That is a huge way to start off. And I always say, I want to make a dent in the universe. We got to start with the younger generation. We got to teach them these skills, these strategies, these habits that at the end of the day should be fundamental in school, right? Of how to set yourself up for success, how to get this morning fire, set your day off right. And yeah, it's the greatest gift I've ever been given, to be a dad and to be able to. I've meditated with my sons before school for the past 3 years, and I was on another podcast, and the host said, "Man, your kids are going to have a 30-year head start on your meditation practice." I said, that's the job as a dad, to see them succeed more than you are. And yeah, it's truly a gift.
And I mean, like, if we were able to raise this many young men to basically like right out the gate, man, come out guns blazing in a positive way, guns blazing, but like just charging at life and making a positive impact everywhere they go. When they're able to spread this message, man, they're able to meditate, they're able to understand all these things. You're going to make a dent in the universe. It goes back to that whole quantum physics thing where it's like, hey, we'll see a quantum leap in humanity if we keep doing this, right? Because you'll see how many guys are going to be able to change. Basically, instead of him going to jail, he met this kid who was led properly by his father, and he sees that fatherhood figure, and he's like, hey, man, can you be my role model, or I'm just going to emulate
Mm,
what this guy's doing, and you're going to make a bigger impact than we'll ever know, right? And that's why, hey, I applaud you, man, because it starts off with, hey, a little bit of fire, right? Just a
that's
little
it.
fire,
That's
right?
it. You gave me goosebumps on that one, because I haven't really thought it like in that way. But wow, that was powerful. I love that. Thank you for that gift.
Hey, no worries, man. I mean, the thing is, for me, I love seeing it, man. And for some reason, like I always talk about this every now and again, it's like you see masculinity being dragged through the mud, but you see positive men out there doing great things, and we don't applaud it for some reason, right? Like everybody's worried about everybody else, but I'm like, no, man. I'm like, there's a lot of good men doing good stuff out there, and being a father, being responsible for your kids, that's number one, man.
So,
Like,
so true. And I love your mission and bringing that to the forefront for sure.
hey, dude, because honestly, I think our health comes from that, right? And we need that. We need more of that. And for you to have figured out a way to get people charged up, male or female, hey, we're gonna see good things come from it, man. And as far as performance goes, and it's like you said that too, it carries into every discipline of our lives, right? So if you're able to start off, hey, meditation, gratitude journal, these little things, they compound, they become bigger and bigger and bigger. So just keep doing what you're doing, Jeff.
Thanks, man. I definitely will.
No, 100%, man. But what are other things that I was gonna ask? What are other things that they could start implementing, like another small step throughout the day? What is something that us guys and gals can do as well, along with the morning fire?
One of the things I love to teach is when you've got something big coming up, maybe you've got to step on a Zoom for a big meeting and you feel those nerves, that anxiousness, those things. Great way to increase your courage and decrease your stress is do a power pose, right? Superman pose for 2 minutes, right? Hands on the side of your hips, chest up, chin up. You do that for 2 minutes. Your testosterone, your courage kind of vitamin goes up 23%, and your cortisol levels go down 16%. And it was amazing. I had one of my sons who wanted to get a higher weight on the bench press. And I said to him, I said, and my kids think I'm crazy. That's great. I said, crazy changes the world. But I said, and it was higher than he ever has done before. I said, here's what you're going to do for the next 2 minutes. I want you to stand up and be in that Superman pose because it's going to increase your courage, your testosterone, decrease your cortisol. Wouldn't you know, he got the rep and he got up and smiled at me like, you actually do know what you're talking about. So if you're facing something big, do that for 2 minutes. All of a sudden, you're just going to feel this energy. You're going to feel that courage kind of flooding the system. And it's a natural thing that we can do
Interesting.
for us to step into the best version of ourselves.
Dude, that's huge. I mean, I think it was Andrew Huberman who was talking about that too, about how, like, the way that you carry yourself into the world is the way that you're going to be perceived, right? So it's almost
Right.
like chest out, shoulders back. I got to tell my son that all the time because he kind of like, hunches over. So,
Right.
but that's huge, man. That's definitely something I'm going to try just before I go to the gym. Maybe not at the gym, I'll wait till I get in there. No, he's be like, yo, this weirdo just stands here before he does deadlifts.
Hey, and then they see you doing a tremendous amount of weight. You might have everybody else in the gym doing the same thing.
2 minutes before every rep. Why not, man? I'll give it a shot. And the other thing I was going to ask you as well, what kind of meditation do you use? Is it Zen, transcendental? Like, what is your go-to meditation technique?
So I still use just guided meditation because even after that many straight days, my mind still wanders. So I just love
Hmm.
somebody talking and saying, come back to your breath.
Yeah,
So I do about 10 to 15 minutes in the morning. Now, obviously, throughout the day, there are times where I just take 3 breaths in through the nose, out through the nose, 6 count in, 2 second hold, 7 seconds out. Just a great way to kind of ground yourself and get in the present moment. But that's really my go-to meditation.
awesome, man. Well,
Yep.
hey, it's working, so don't stop doing it. I'm the same way as you though, because I do prefer the guided meditation too. And I've been doing more of the Zen kind of stuff where it's just kind of like, just breathe in, be in the moment, be present. Because it's
Mhm.
crazy how big of an impact that has made on me. I mean, for me, it's like obviously, I see these thoughts, but it's almost like, okay, the thought is just let it go through, do not connect emotion to it.
Right.
And it's interesting because you're like, dude, I never thought that just breathing in, this navel gazing was gonna do anything. But
Yeah,
it
and
does.
I would say we also have this misconception of meditation, right? We see a bald monk on the side of the mountain with his legs crossed, snow pounding down on him for hours at a time. And I always tell my clients, like, listen, if you struggle with it, just take 3 breaths in, and that's your meditation, and feel good about doing that. And after a week of 3 breaths, add another breath, and you can build up, right? And that's
Yeah,
all you need to do is start. You don't need to see the end result. Just concentrate on the start, that starting line, taking one step, and then you'll start to feel that progress.
100%, man.
Yep.
That being said, Jeff, tell us a little bit more about your book before we head on out. Just dive into it, man.
Yeah, so it is the blueprint that I start each day with, and design the day at night, prepare for success. So it's called Rise, Fight, Love, Repeat. Ignite Your Morning Fire. It's out on Amazon, either through Kindle or paperback. They can grab it there. And then I'll give you the blueprint that I live by and operate by on a daily basis. Also give some great nuggets and wisdom around the why, the how, and then what you're going to get out of it.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Hey, and tell us your socials.
Yep. So I am big on Instagram, Jeff_Wickersham, Wickersham, as in Mary. I'm out on TikTok. I dropped some
All
videos
right.
out
All
on there,
right.
and I got a YouTube channel as well, Jeff Wickersham Morning Fire out there as well.
Perfect, man. And I'll be sure to include them all in the description. Guys, I don't know about you guys all listening, but I had an incredible time, learned a whole lot. Jeff, it was an absolute honor and pleasure having you here today. And on that being said, any closing words, my friend?
No, CJ, really enjoyed the conversation, and everybody listening. Today is a gift you will never get again. Take advantage of it.
So true, man. So true. Let's capitalize on it today, guys. And until the next episode,